Good morning to everyone who's joined us, and thank you very much for coming on to this Safran hosted webinar. On behalf of Safran Software Solutions and proadvise, we welcome you. Today we have a fantastic subject on navigating the jungle of project risk management, and I'm here to introduce some of the people who you can now see on screen. Our guest speaker today is Kristin Wölfel. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's all right.
And Matt Waters. And so we're not going to do a lot of preliminary introductions, but Kristin is a senior project and program management consultant at proadvise. Is that fair to say? Is that
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
Yeah. Extraordinary. So, and Kristin and I are both from the marketing sides of both Safran and proadvise, and we have Matt Waters, who's from Safran Software Solutions. He's from the sales side. So just to let you all know that we are recording this session. You can type in questions, please. If you have any questions, we will be saving the questions to the very end of the webinar. At that time, we'll have a Q&A session where Kristin will field the questions as best as possible. If we don't have enough time to field all the questions or to answer all the questions, I will capture the questions after the webinar is finished, and we will get answers to all the questions out in a file to all those who have registered. Equally, after this webinar is completed, it'll probably be a day, possibly 2 days, before you'll get an email which gives you a hyperlink to the recorded session in case you want to go back and review what was presented, what was said. But also for any registrants who, for whatever reason, if you had to drop off suddenly halfway between, the start and the finish of this webinar, and because of something, that came up, fine. You'll get the recorded webinar. You'll still be able to see everything and hear everything. So you'll have all the information you need and want from this webinar. So again, thank you all for attending. We're just now 3 minutes past the hour of 8:30, so we're just going to get started. And let's just say, Kristin, Christina, Matt, welcome to you all. Thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah.
So
yeah, thank you.
So Kristin, you're now in presenter mode. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and I will, myself and Christina will monitor the questions as they come in. But again, we'll save the Q&A, the question and answer time, for the end. And one other thing to all the attendees, we are able to take questions both in English and in German. I will take them in English. Christina will take them in German, and we can field those in both languages. So, Kristin, thank you so much. I'll leave the floor to you. You're in presenter mode.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Edmund. And thanks for having me. And welcome everybody. And good morning. Well, good morning in Germany, wherever you are. Today I want to give you like a short overview how you can use Safran Risk to, as we called it, navigate the jungle of risk management. And why do I think that this topic is important? It's basically like in Germany, where our company is located, and probably all over the world, what we are seeing in the last couple of years, and is like a tendency that, of course, the number of projects that everybody or every company has to do is like really rising. The complexity of these projects is like really, really big. We have a huge number of involved project stakeholders, which are taking part or participating in these projects. And of course, all these projects are getting even more challenging timelines and project budgets. So we see that in Germany, like if you could look at projects in the energy transmission, for example, the timelines and the project budget that we are getting there is like really, really challenging. And of course, this all means that there is an increasing number of risks which are coming with this project, which is just a natural development. So, and therefore we see that in companies in Germany, the risk management is getting even more attention than it has been in the last couple of years. And if the risk management is getting more attention, people are like starting to get to look into the topic of risk management. And many people, if they start looking into risk management, they are getting like really, really overwhelmed with all the vocabulary, what is existing in the world of the risk management. There are many complex tools like Oracle Primavera Risk Analysis on the market, where you have so many options and buttons and whatever what you can click on, and people are just getting overwhelmed with all the possibilities that the risk management is giving to them, and they do not even know where to start with the whole process. And Safran is a tool which has been developed to face or to tackle these problems, which I just described. And I want to show you how basically Safran is set up to start people not only starting in the risk management process, but also like really helping them, guiding the jungle, as we called it. So therefore, I do not want to bother you with too many slides, because I think all of you are here more to take a look at the tool. So I will now jump directly into the tool so that we can see how we can use Safran for the whole process. I think you should be able to see the screen now, right? And with Safran Risk. All right. So what we are getting when we are opening Safran is like this opening screen where you have a couple of options available where to start when using Safran. So you can of course create a new project in Safran if you're really starting from scratch. You can open existing projects, and what is probably the most important option for most of our customers here in Germany, and probably for many of the Safran customers, is that you have the option to import external project files. So if you have like a schedule existing from MS Project or Primavera P6, you have the option to import these files into Safran Risk and easily import existing schedules with all the relationships, all the tasks, all the constraints, or whatever you might have there into the tool directly, and you do not need to set up anything newly. For the demonstration, I will not import any external files. I have prepared something already, which I will just open because that's just easier. Looking at the time, I think that's the better way. So and now, if you have opened a file, you will see the complete user interface of Safran. And as I said, now Safran is really helping you navigating through all these risk management topics. So the user interface in Safran compared to other tools like Opera is like really intuitive. So the whole tool is set up that way that it's like the workflow. So you just go through the risk management workflow by starting from the left, and you just go through the right, basically with the analyze in the middle. And that's how I will now show you the tool as well. So we will start from the left and just go through the right until we have finished the whole risk management process. So we are starting here in the schedule. In the schedule tab. In the schedule tab, the name is just saying it. You have basically an overview of the schedule that you have just imported. You can see here what I've put in here is like a example file of an offshore grid connection, because that's where I'm working on for the last couple of years. So it's a project quite familiar to me. So you see here you have all the activities. You see you have start milestone, finish milestone, hammocks, which are called level of efforts in P6. So all these scheduling things you have available here in Safran Risk. You can set up different views. So for example, there is even a view called import check, which you can use if you want to see if the whole import of your project schedule into Safran was was all right. So you can see here is the column start difference, finish difference, and you can just compare what has been imported, what was in the original project schedule, and you can see then if there are any issues or problems during the import. So yeah, you can of course set up any view you want. So any view you might have in Primavera P6 or MS Project or whatever, since Safran is providing a whole scheduling engine, you have the option to set up all these views and all these things here in Safran directly as well. So and filters, of course, you have available as well. So if you say now I just want to see, for example, just the permit activities, you are just applying a permit filter, and then automatically it will be filtered. So everything that you would expect to have in a scheduling engine, or that you know from Primavera P6, for example, you will find that here in Safran as well. So if we now start the risk management process by going to the right to the first tab, to the next tab, it's the schedule warning tabs. This tab is providing you an overview about all the warnings and all the issues which were detected in the schedule. So you need to know that for a proper risk analysis, in Safran Risk and in any other risk tool, you need to of course have a proper schedule with no open ends, no hard constraints, not large lags. So all these things which you might know from a proper let's say quality or schedule quality checks, you will find these here in the schedule warnings. So you can see here in my schedule, for example, we had some activities where a constraint is there. We have some issues with maybe bigger lags between some activities. We have some open-ended activities and so on. You can go through all of these warnings one by one and can check what is the issue. Is that something you might even accept? Then you can just click on the accept option here to say, okay, that's something I cannot avoid. That's just how it is within the schedule. You can make notes and whatever. So you have a couple of options here to work with these schedule warnings. This is probably even important if you're working, for example, with many subcontractors and you're getting a subcontractor file where you want to make a risk analysis on. The first thing is always to check the quality of the file, because I know from experience that subcontractors tend to have like maybe not that big of a scheduling experience, and they might have some issues when setting up a schedule. So that's something always worth looking at to see if the whole risk management process or the further setup of the risk management process even makes sense. Because if you have like a huge number of warnings, then the risk analysis might not deliver the results you want to have. And then if I now go to the next tab, which is the project risk, that's the area now in Safran Risk where the whole thing is basically starting. So you can see here all the risks which I have identified or which have been identified for the project. So you see here, for example, we have a risk which I just call legal cases against the permissions, which is like a standard risk. So meaning a standard risk means we have a probability, we have impacts, which can be schedule impact and cost impacts, and which then can be assigned later on to activities, which I will show in a moment. So you see here we have the risk legal cases against permission. We have a mitigated probability of 50% that risk is occurring. And here on the right-hand side, you basically say, okay, what is the impact? So for the schedule impact, you can say you have absolute or relative values. So you could put the number in percentages, or you could put absolute numbers in here like we did in our example, where we say, okay, if the risk of legal cases against permission is occurring, we will have a probably delay somewhere between 160 days and 320 days. You can work with the different distributions, which you might know from other tools like triangle, uniform, normal distributions or whatever. But yeah, if people are just starting with risk management, you would probably stick to one of the like standard distributions like triangle or maybe beta PERT. But yeah, that's basically you see that Safran is offering many other options as well of what you can do. And the same goes for the cost impact. So you see here you can also assess what impact on the cost side you might have if the risk is occurring. So in that example, it would be somewhere between 0 and 2.6 million. And again, the triangle distribution and so on. And of course, what you can do as well, so that's the pre-mitigated position. You can also maintain a post-mitigated position. So if you want to make a comparison, for example, between pre-mitigated position and post-mitigated position, you can just put the post-mitigated position in here in that area. So you see, okay, if we are taking mitigation actions, we might be able to reduce the risk from 50% to 30%, for example, and to reduce the impact as well a little bit to maybe somewhere between 60 days and 200 days, for example. You could even track detailed actions in here. I haven't done that in that example because that would just take too much time to show that you in detail. But in general, you have the ability as well to have these detailed actions in here as well. So these are these standard risks, as you can see here. What we have as well is estimate uncertainties. So people who have been working with OPRA or other quantitative risk analysis tools might know that there's a difference between estimate uncertainties and standard risks. So estimate uncertainties you would have if you say, okay, there's just an uncertainty in the in the estimation of the duration of the activity, for example. So in OPRA, you would have two different areas where you can do that. Here in Safran, it's all in one screen. It's all in the project risk area. And you can see here, like we have defined 3 uncertainties, which is a low planning uncertainty, medium, and high. And in our case, we just put some percentages in here saying, okay, a low planning uncertainty means that the duration of an activity might be somewhere between 95% and 105% of the actual duration that we have put in our schedule. So this is another option you are having. And a last thing which I would just want to quickly mention here is that you have also a risk type which is called calendar risk. So you can define even, for example, bad weather calendars, as we have done here in our example, where you say, okay, we might have an uncertainty about the ability to work on certain activities in our example somewhere between January, November, and February. So we said, okay, there's a probability of maybe 30% that we are not able to work. I will not go in too much detail in the setup and all these things because that would just go too far now, but just so that you know there are options available as well to work with risk calendars here in the tool. So you have many options to model all the risks and all the uncertainties that you want to include in your project schedule. And one option which I do not want to miss out is that you have, of course, the import option. So that's a questions I'm getting quite often when we are talking about risk analysis. I have a risk register already in Excel or maybe in OPRA or whatever. Is there any import option available? Of course there is. So you see here, there's this import button, which you can just use to import, for example, an existing risk register from Excel, which is quite easily done. And then you can easily just set up all the risks which you have maybe in any other third-party tool already existing, and you do not need to type all the risk details into Safran Risk. So that's the first thing, that you are setting up all the project risks and you're basically your risk register, if you want to call it that, like that. And then you're going to the next step. So now I'm going again on the right-hand side to the risk mapping, where you now map these risks to your project schedule. So that's now the link between the project risks and the schedule activities. And how that's working in Safran is quite easily. So you see here on the top, here, that's all the risks which we have in our risk register. So you can see here, okay, again, we have like onshore construction not completed in due time. We had the cable preferred cable route rejected. So all these risks which we found here, you now see here, and on the here you can see all the activities from your schedule, which you can, of course, expand, collapse, and whatever. You could even just click on a risk here to see when you want to know, okay, where is currently the cable failures maybe caused prior and during necessary post-lay activities? Where is that risk assigned to which activity? You just click on the risk on the top, and you see here, okay, that's currently assigned to that activity. The mapping in Safran is easily done. So you see here, it's quite intuitive with this setup, with the user interface. What you could even do is, if you are applying, for example, a filter here in your schedule area. So if I say, okay, I just want to see the permit activities, and I'm going back to the risk mapping, you will see automatically this filter is also applied here in the risk mapping, so that I'm just seeing the activities that I'm really needing, which is of course helping and supporting the whole risk mapping process to make that much more easier than it was maybe in other tools. And of course, you have again these importing options available. So if you have an existing risk model in risk analysis or any other tool, you can just convert that into a format that Safran is understanding and import it, and then you have it available, and you do not maybe need to set up anything else. Yeah, and the last option, what we have as well, is like these convert uncertainties. So some people tend to have uncertainties already in their schedule in user-defined fields, like where they say, okay, what's the minimum, most likely, and maximum duration of an activity? If you already have that, you can import that into Safran, and you can convert these directly into uncertainties, which are then applied to your schedule. So even that is possible. But I will not again show it in detail because that would take too much time, but the possibility is there. So whatever risk and uncertainties you might already have, there are many options available to just transfer them into Safran Risk. So, and once you've done the risk mapping, you can start to analyze. I'm just leaving out cost and correlations for now, because that's more like an advanced topic, which we might be saving for another session. And there are other sessions already available where you can take a look at that. But for now, I just will say, okay, now we are doing the analyze. And the analyze is basically doing the simulation of the schedule, and you can see here on the left hand side you see the risk, and you can decide with which position do you want to model your plan. So now currently all the risks are applied in the pre-mitigated position, but I could even say, okay, I want to see how it's looking like in the post-mitigated position. You can include different risks. We will take a look at that shortly, so that you can see directly how easily it is done in Safran to model different kind of risk scenarios. Another important feature that you have in Safran is on the right-hand side here, these focus activities. I will show you in the reports later on why that might be a useful feature as well, because here you can say, okay, you have maybe some important milestones within your schedule. Like here, I have 2 milestones, which is try run of the first system and the try run of the second system, which you want to monitor independently, and where you want to make risk analysis on to see, okay, when could these milestones actually take place. So you can just select these milestones here in the focus activities, and then easily select them in the reports later on. But now if I just start the risk analysis, I'm enabling the option to step through so that you can see what is actually happening. So if what Safran is doing when it's analyzing this schedule is basically with each simulation. So I've said, okay, it should be 1,000 iteration. There, another version of the schedule is basically, created. And as you see here, with each iteration, I'm doing how the activities are actually moving. So, and you're seeing, okay, these activities are moving because with each iterations, different risks might occur with different impacts. Sometimes the risk is not occurring. It's based on the input parameters that you have put into the project risk. So you see here, yeah, every time it's looking a little bit different. I will not just do all the 1,000 iterations at once. So now I'm completing the risk analysis, and now we can start from the on the right-hand side from the analyze, which is giving you now the ability for the different kind of reports you are having. And different kind of reports we are seeing in Safran. Many users who have worked with risk analysis or with any risk tool beforehand, they should be quite familiar with these kind of reports. People who are not that familiar with risk management might need a little bit of time to understand these kind of reports. But the first thing which you always see is like the distribution graph, which is like the classic risk report many people are using. So, and what you are basically seeing here is the distribution of, in my example, the finish date of the project. I'm just leaving the filter out again. So because now I can work with these focus activities. Okay. Doesn't matter, but you can see now if I look at the overall program, for example, the overall finish date, you can see, okay, the deterministic value was somewhere in April 28, and then you get these famous p-values, which you might know from conversations or from risk workshops and whatever, where you can look like, okay, what would the actual P90 finish date, for example, of the project be? And here we are seeing, okay, it's the 5th of July. So you see these bars, which are just indicating, okay, where are the actual finish dates per iteration. Basically, you can define curtains where you can compare, for example, your deterministic your deterministic finish date with the P80 date, I think I put in here, where you can see, okay, the difference is now currently 440 days, which probably nobody wants to see, because that would mean that we have a delay of over a year in the project, which of course we now need to see, okay, how could we reduce that number, because as I said, nobody wants to see or wants to hear that we might have a delay of 440 days. And to get to know, okay, where is these 440 days, for example, coming from, there is the next report available, which is the drivers, which is showing you, okay, which risks and which activities are the most impacting ones for the schedule. And you see here, okay, there's a risk which is called vessel availability, which contributed 49% to the delays. We have the legal cases, which I mentioned earlier, and we have like the high local public resistance. So these three risks are a little bit on the top of the whole tornado chart and are the ones which are most impacting. So I could then say, okay, what is if these risks can be mitigated, or we could even exclude them? And then you would just start like doing risk simulations. So you could say, okay, we had the vessel availability. What if there's an option to totally exclude that risk? So you can just disable it, because maybe you have another vessel availability, so that risk is not valid anymore. Or what are you doing with the where is it? Your legal cases against permission. Maybe you can even say, okay, I'm not able to reduce to mitigate that risk to totally, but we will taking some actions so that we can change the position from pre-mitigated to post-mitigated. And maybe the same for the high local resistance, and then you can just run the analysis again, and then we could look, okay, what impact does that have now on the distribution graph? And you see here now, okay, I was able to reduce the number from 440, which I had, to 209, just by mitigating, these three top risks, which I have seen here in the drivers. If these 209 days are, of course, now still too much, and people say, oh, okay, no, that's something I'm still not able to accept, you can even would start the process again. So you have here like another top risk on the list, which is the onshore construction site. And then you can model different kind of risk scenarios quite easily within Safran. In Opera, people who have used that before, you know that these kind of risk simulation, which I just now easily have done in Safran, are quite time intensive, because you always have to create different kind of risk plans and all these kind of things. You need to change all these things with pre-mitigated, post-mitigated, manually. So in Safran, it's just done with just a couple of clicks, and the analysis is done. You can easily, do these kind of things. We are having other reports available here in Safran as well. You see them here. I will not just go through all of them because it's just taking too much time, but maybe one report I do not want to miss out is the sensitivity analysis, because that's a report which is not existing in Opera or any other risk management software that I know in that detail. So what the sensitivity analysis is doing, you're seeing it's currently calculating, is basically it's showing you which how the finish date of a milestone would look like if you are mitigating risks totally. So you can compare directly. Just letting it calculate. Now it's finished. Like we are now having these kind of S-curves where you can see, okay, if I'm not excluding any of the risks, that's how my finish date for the overall project would look like. So my P80 value would be somewhere here is between November and December 28. If I would now mitigate completely the risk of the legal cases against permission, again, you would see, okay, that would already save me maybe six months, because I would end up somewhere in July 2028. Or if I'm just I'm not able to mitigate that one, but I'm maybe able to mitigate the cable failures. You see here, okay, I'm saving 1 month maybe by mitigating that risk. And so you can easily see as well which impact you might see if you are able to mitigate risks completely. And that's a quite nice feature which I haven't seen in any other risk management software so far. Which can be really helpful if you want to know and want to analyze which risks you want to which you want to mitigate and which you should really tackle to have the most impact on your project. And then you have other reports like scatter plot, cash flow, and so on. As said, I will not go into much detail because just of the time. So we said we want to stick to the basic reports for now. But yeah, Safran, as you can see, is offering many of these reports and options to have to get the output of the risk analysis as you need. And if you have existing reports already available, these can be easily set up in Safran the same way as you might be used from other tools.
Kristin, would you do you want to? I know that we're just coming up to 5 minutes past the hour, so we've got quite a bit of time left. Would you prefer to answer questions now, or do you have more to present that you'd like to get?
I've in the tool itself, I do not have that much more. I have 2 more slides which I would shortly want to show, but we can start with the questions now as well if you like.
It's just up to you. I've seen that our attendees have lots of questions, which may take some time more than the 10 minutes that we've put aside for question and answers.
Okay, yeah, then
But please,
let's
I
start
don't
with the
want to.
questions for now. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I don't want to preempt your other content. You know, you have slide content. Would you like to switch to the slide content, and maybe then we go into the Q&A, giving a bit more time for Q&A?
Yeah, okay. I will shortly present just the slides. I think it's again. Okay. It's just 2 more slides because I mentioned a couple of times the differences between Safran and Primavera Risk Analysis. So in Germany, we have many customers who have been using Primavera Risk Analysis who are now thinking about switching the tool. And this slide, I just want to give you like an overview why Safran is probably the better solution for many of our customers, because many customers are now facing the issue that Oracle Primavera Risk Analysis, the development, as we all know, has stopped in 2013. So it's now almost it's 10 years that Oracle has developed anything in the tool. So the last patch that was 8 years ago, and it's no longer supported. So many customers are facing not just technical issues, but issues with the tool itself, because it's just an outdated tool. As you can see with the software architecture, it's not database driven as Safran. It's like a file based solution. Only P6 versions up to 8.2 are supported, and the cost schedule analysis is not really an integrated one you are finding here in risk analysis. So you see there are many advantages Safran has compared to risk analysis. That's what we are always telling our customers who are facing all these kind of issues. Similar to like with MS Project, it's just supported until version 2000. So newer versions of MS Project are hard to be imported into risk analysis. So there are many arguments to say, okay, we might think about switching the tool. And if you decide to do that, so what's the easiest way? It's like really the process which I have just shown. So the first thing is that you need to import existing projects. Should it be MS Project? Should it be XER files? So as I mentioned, these interfaces are all existing in Safran, so it's quite easily done. And then the whole setup of the risk model, but that's maybe the biggest exercise that you are doing. But even there, as I said, there are existing importing functions available from third-party tools, so you can import existing risk registers, existing risk mappings quite easily, and then you have it in the tool, and the migration is almost done, because then the last thing you just need to do is basically setting up your reporting with the different kind of reports that I just showed. So, but I think that's it already, and then we could start with the question, Edmund.
Can I just say, wow, fantastic. Kristin, you have done in such a short, you've packed so much into a short space of time on the functionality and features of Safran Risk, and I know that that's not easy. It's quite a complex tool to present on, and you have done a smashing good job. So I just wanted to say thank you. So yeah, let's get into some of the questions, because I think it's always good that we kind of tackle a few things. I've opened up the questions. We've already tried to answer some of the other questions that have preceded the ones that I'm about to ask. And again, I'm going to try to make sure that I send out a capture of all these questions to people after the webinar is concluded via email. So here's the first one. It's can I save this mapping of risks? Probably it will always I guess be a new XER file, which will be implemented.
There are different options available. So Safran is offering, even if you're getting a new version of an XER file, you could update the existing schedule you are having here, so that you do not need to create a new Safran project, for example. So you would just update the schedule, and all the risk mapping and the project risk and all these kind of things would be still in place if the risk, if the activity ID in the schedule didn't change, of course. So that's like the reference which is made. If you do not want to use the update feature in Safran, you can also export just the risk mapping or the project risk or even the complete risk model and create a new Safran Risk with the new XER file and import the risk model or the Excel file newly into Safran. So there are many options available. That's again quite easily done.
Perfect, perfect. Also, we've got, I'm trying to make sure that I read this correctly. The example, uncertainty U1, or I guess it's U1/U2/U3 are set up with ranges. Can I make adjustments after risk mapping?
Yeah, you can always make adjustments. So you can always change these kind of percentages afterwards. Even if you have done the risk mapping, you can always go back to project risk and change the number from, let's say, 95% to 90% or 97% or whatever. I'm not sure if that was the question, but
so what I'll do is, I mean, I invite the people who write the questions that if you hear an answer and you're not quite clear on whether or not that you got the right answer, just please rewrite the question again and we'll get to it. So now this is a long question. Is it possible to break down multiple project risk registers and collate by similar tranches of work, for example? This person says, I have 100 projects across the UK, but I want to see/understand all risks impacting the Northwest locations or Northwest specific project areas.
Yeah, I think that goes more in like portfolio risk management. Matt, maybe you can jump in here as well, but I think that's more like something for Safran Risk Manager, right? That sounds.
Indeed, yeah. So Safran Risk Manager is another tool that we have, which is more focused on sort of qualitative risk management practices, but it also gives you the opportunity to view your risks as they apply to across a portfolio, and it helps you sort of manage the process of refining those risks down ready for analysis, which is also another of the import functions for Safran Risk. But that's for another day, I'm afraid, guys. We can a Safran Risk Manager demo setup or webinar setup for you all.
Yeah, but Safran Risk is more like really not on a portfolio level per se. You can do it with some not workarounds, I wouldn't call it, but with some of the features. But it's not the basic use case. That's what Safran Risk Manager is more for here.
Yeah. Okay. So I would invite the people on the webinar that if you want to see or have a consultation on Safran Risk or Safran Risk Manager, you can contact us. You can also go through the Safran Software Solutions website and you can book subject matter expert through that. Or if you're maybe from Germany, Austria, Switzerland, you're in this sort of marketplace where proadvise are enabling customers there, you could contact proadvise through their website and get a session with a subject matter expert. It'll probably be Kristin, I should think. Yes.
Yeah, probably.
So, okay, the next question is. Okay, hang on. Do you not want to map? Okay. I'm gonna struggle to. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna have to move to the next question because some of these questions, guys, are being written out very long style and they're not so easy to grab a hold of. Kristin, I don't know. Can you actually?
There's a bit of a conversation going on in the questions, which is always good to see. But we'll definitely address some of the questions within those paragraphs afterwards.
Okay, I'm going to take the shorter questions, guys, just to make it a little easier, and we can try to get to the detailed questions in the document that I send out. So, for long duration projects, can you analyze uncertainty/assumptions as opposed to risk? For example, for projects that aren't due to start for a few years. That's an interesting question.
Yeah, but I think, you can always run the risk analysis. So if your scheduling is saying your project is just starting in 5 years, then you can just the same way assign the risks,
Yeah.
which I have just shown, and then you can do the exact same analysis. That's what many of our customers are doing if they want to know, okay, should we do this project or is it too risky for our company? So that's what many of our customers are doing during the tender process. So you can run the risk analysis at any time in the project lifecycle.
Just run it like it's a project happening today, but it just happens to be in the future. And then you could also make adjustments as you go forward in time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, good. So the next question is this. It's in the step through of the ORA analysis, you can see the development of the risks as well. Has this been visible due to the filter on permit, or is this a general thing?
That's a general thing. So like you see now here, I do not have any filter applied anymore. And if I just run through the analysis again, and with the next step through, you see here it's on the other activities as well. It's depending on where you have applied the risks to which activities. And then how these activities are, of course, linked in the overall schedule. What you see here, even okay, maybe that's again the permit, but if I go further down to another area, you see here it's the same thing, like in the offshore activities. Yeah.
I think it's worth noting here as well, you can actually set up multiple different views so that you can have different information represented on the Gantt chart, so that as it steps through, you can see the name of the risks flashing up and the impact that they're having. It's a full scheduling engine, which is obviously built into the Safran risk analysis. So as you run results, you can then look back through the earlier process and see how the outcome of the analysis is affecting the schedule, the cost breakdown structure, and such.
Yeah. So this is an excellent question. I love this. Have you run Safran against ORA, and are the results similar? Do I surprise our customers with other results when switching from ORA to Safran? Oh, I think I can see. I'm running ORA, and I give the customer these results, and then I run Safran and give them the results, and it's like, is it a massive difference? Have you ever done that sort of a?
Yeah, I've done it, because in the project where I'm currently working, we switched from ORA to Safran as well. And looking at the schedule risk analysis, it was really the same results we are getting. Maybe a couple of days here and there, because maybe like the calculation, the Monte Carlo calculation is, or with each simulation you might get different results with a different couple of days here and there, but overall the results was the same. Yeah, if you have the same risk model, of course, in both tools. That's the prerequisite. Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad you said that. I imagine that sort of a result. So here's the next question. What does the percentage of the risk and activity drivers imply?
That's a good.
I'm not sure if I even understand the question.
Yeah, I think the question is, what does these 95% here in the onshore construction?
Okay.
I do not want to tell something wrong, but I think Matt, maybe someone else can jump in if I tell, but I think it means like in this example, 95% of the iterations, if that risk was occurring, we had an impact on the overall schedule. So that means like in 95% of the iterations, this risk was like a cause of a delay, basically. That's how I'm always.
That is creating 95% of the effects on the schedule. Of course, in dummy data, it's hard to sort of see what it look like for you guys. I think interestingly on the drivers here, this is very similar to what you would see in OPRA as far as I understand, but where we differ is if you have uncertainties that are, say, applied to maybe 5 or 6 different activities, it will actually pick out, okay, uncertainty 2 apply to, this particular one activity. is having such an effect that you might want to consider it being a discrete risk in and of itself. So it does enable you to kind of interrogate the data a bit more. And you'll notice on the screen here is you've got the filter and the focus activities. And so you can actually start really interrogating to certain outcomes or milestones in the project to see what are my risk drivers, what are my main risks affecting certain stage gates or milestones that you're trying to achieve on the product on the project. Okay.
Yeah. What I just shown, like if you filter, that's not something I've shown in the demo. Yeah, you can just filter, like if you want to see trial operation when that's gonna start, you can easily filter, and then, as Matt just said, click on the different activities and see what is really impacting these milestones, for example.
Right. Good. One of the things that has come up is that the complexity of the question. I mean, it's a very deep sort of question. So we'll try to give a fuller, deeper answers to some of these questions, which are really fantastic. But some of these questions, I think, could almost be a webinar all on their own. I think that's a fair comment. So here's the next question: are the calendar risks automatically mapped to the activities that appear in that period of time?
No, how it's done, it's like the calendar risk is just like any other risks you see here. So just need to check what is my calendar risk. It was the A42 552. So you see here it's like any other risk, and then you need to apply this calendar to the different activities, because the whole thing is in the current schedule, this activity might not be in the time frame when you have these uncertainties applied, but during the risk modeling or during the Monte Carlo simulation, because of the different kind of risks, this activities might be shifted into the non-working times or the possible non-working times, and then you would want to apply the calendar. So that's why you need to say for every activity where you might have that uncertainty with the calendar risk, you need to just do a normal risk mapping like with any other risk as well.
Absolutely, and it's worth remembering that a calendar risk can be something like wave height, but it could also be weekend working, or it could be weather, inclement weather. So they might have different effects on different parts of the schedule, and so you can get quite detailed on different calendar effects. For instance, people only working weekends or not working weekends won't affect being able to put up a renewable wind turbine. If that's affected by wave height, for instance. So yeah.
Okay, so we've got a few more questions left. I think we've just got enough time to probably get an answer to all these questions. So I'll try to speed us through if it's possible. So the next question is: can I see uncertainty and project risks overlaid with each other, also combined together on the histogram? That sounds quite complex, but I don't know. Yeah, it's the seeing uncertainty.
I think they mean this histogram, right? And I'm not sure, to be honest, if we can, but I think you always see like the combination of project risks and uncertainties in here, and I would need to check, but I think there's no option available to really say, okay, out of these 209 days, 100 days are coming from risks and 109 days are coming from uncertainties. I haven't seen any option like that, but Matt, I'm not sure if you know.
I think in essence you could, run different scenarios where you look at just uncertainties, certain particular risks. And then you can send to comparison or send to distribution, different S curves of outcomes. And then you can look at, you'll notice on the top, the black ribbon, you've got distribution comparison on the top right.
Yeah.
You can then look at the deltas between different scenarios and outcomes here. So you can run loads of different models, see what the S curve is, save that S curve, and then later on you can view what the relationship is between those two models, and that can give you some direction on different mitigation strategies and things like that.
Yeah. Okay, so you see here now I just excluded the high planning uncertainty, and you see the number just reduced by 7 days. But as Matt said, you can send it to comparison, and then you could even compare, okay, that's how it's looking like with the high uncertainty, and the red line would be without. So yeah, you can make different kind of risk models to get this information out. But yeah.
So there's another one here about can you switch from pre and post in sensitivity analysis as well?
It's based on what position you are doing the analyze. So you can switch from pre to post here, and then run the analyze, and then you can compare the sensitivity analysis. But yeah, it's always based on the input you are giving here in the analyze menu, if you want to run the pre or the post mitigated position, or the combination of both, or whatever. Yeah.
Great. I'm also putting in a link. I'm saying that you've answered it verbally, but I'm also putting in a link to a pre-record that was done regarding risk, shall I say, risk analysis, risk drivers and sensitivity analysis, which the person who formulated the question and also the rest of the audience might find also helpful to listen through to. Okay, so here we go. And you see the S-curve of multiple mitigated risks, as in not all separated but combined. That's an interesting one. So it sounds like multiple. So that would imply multiple S-curves on the same screen, all pertaining to multiple, the multiple risks involved.
Oh, that's a.
Is that?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, presumably, if you just click on selecting, no?
Yeah, if I'm selecting now all of them, you see here you have to, and I think it goes into the right direction because you have different methods for this sensitivity analysis. You have the multiple path and you have the single path, and I think the multiple path is exactly what the question is going to. Like the multiple path is saying if you exclude one risk after another, so you have like the knock-on effect, or it's maybe not the right word, but yeah, you see like the total sum of risk mitigation. So if I would just say, okay, I want to see none and this one, that would mean like if I'm mitigating the 5 most critical risks, I think, and that's based on the different kind of options you are using in the sensitivity analysis. But I think again, as you said, maybe these things are getting more detailed discussed in the respective webinars. Yeah.
Another webinar.
You can also, absolutely, you can also notice, I think on the left-hand side, you've got different impacts on. So you can actually start using the sensitivity analysis. You've got a drop-down box on the left-hand side with finish date. So you can look at, duration, cost, the start date, and the different aspects in the sensitivity analysis, and then start seeing how those S-curves are related to each other. While selected certain risks and things like that. So it is really, you can also then obviously focus maybe on P75 or P90 or P whatever sort of confidence that you need on that. And of course you can represent that tornado view as well if you need to.
Okay, just to the audience, we are coming up to only 2 minutes shy of our stop time, and it is possible we could run over time by 1 or 2 minutes if people want to stay for a couple more questions. I don't think we're going to be able to answer all the questions we have, but we will get answers out in a document after this webinar. So I'm just going to take a couple more questions and see how we get along. If your question hasn't been answered, don't worry. An answer will be forthcoming. So I just saw, here's the next question. I just saw the evaluation part of Safran. How does the risk register look? I thought you did present the risk register on screen in your.
Yeah, that's like the. Okay. Well, it's not a register like an Excel table. What you might know. Yeah. It's like in the project risks, you have the list of the risks with the different kind of information about probability impacts and so on. It's not like a classical risk register in Excel. That's not something, you will find here, but I think that's the screen which is most relating to a classical risk register.
Absolutely, and that again is focusing in on our other product, Safran Risk Manager, which does have a massive, hugely intuitive risk register where you can denote actions and assign, mitigation strategies and lots of other contingency planning and things like that. That's sort of designed to create that much more credible and higher quality risk register, which we then use for analysis within Safran Risk itself. So Safran Risk is only focusing on the information needed for an effective analysis, rather than the management of the risk process or risk register process.
Thank you for that. Here's one. There's a couple of questions here about opportunities, how they're incorporated, and so on. One is, could you show an example of how opportunities are incorporated in as follows? Of an early question, but also, can you please insert an opportunity in the risk register? Show us that, please. Is that something we can do quickly, or?
Yeah, I think it's like an opportunity is nothing else like new entry here. I could say I want to maybe include a new opportunity, and then the only difference is that you model a negative schedule or cost impact, because an opportunity means we are saving time or we are saving cost. So therefore you just put a minus in front of the values, and then that's automatically modeled as an opportunity. So you could say, okay, maybe because of that opportunity, I'm able to save up to 50, maybe even 100 days if it's good, minus 100.
Yeah.
Sorry, and then
that could also be modeled into an actual risk as well, right? So it could be like the best outcome on a risk if you've got a mitigation strategy is that actually turns it into an opportunity if you have effective mitigation, right? So that can be fully modeled in, and again, with the probability of outcome. That's then factored into the simulation. So it might be that out of 10% of the iterations end up with that mitigation strategy applied, and certain scenarios meaning that an opportunity was actually generated and a reduction in cost or time on the project. So you can model that as detailed as you would like, and you can have different probabilistic branches of outcomes that you can script into the analysis as well.
We also have a white paper on probabilistic cash flow on our website, so I will send that link out if people wish after the call on the email that will follow up with the link to the recorded webinar plus the questions and answers captured. I'm going to take one more question, which means there's a handful of questions we won't answer today, but the time is running away with us. So the last question, I hope it's fairly straightforward. Can you show us a sample report results? How can the management see the results? So I don't know how quick or easy that is for you to just pull up the like a management report.
They're different kind of reports, yeah.
So, yeah, it is. But I was wondering if it's possible to do that.
Yeah, so like the classic report, as I said, is like this distribution graph, which is shown to the management, where you basically see this this information, which you can then just of course export or make a screenshot of, or whatever you want. It's basically really the question, what is the requirement for the management report? So what should be seen? But you have all these reports available here. You have the distribution graph, the drivers as I showed. We have the sensitivity analysis. So you have multiple options to extract the data in different kind of reporting formats.
You can export that into Word, you can export it into Excel. There are different options that you can do. I think you can also pre-configure a set of reports that you want to export, so that once a month when you're having to do your management reporting, you can run that report and run that and get the document with it takes all of the pictograms, histograms and stuff into the document, so that when you can then also add in context and put your sage knowledge and understanding as a risk manager, to frame some of the outputs in such a way that you can drive proper insights on a project.
Yeah, right. Fantastic, guys. That's as much as we can do today. We have gone a little bit over time, but that's okay. I think again, thanks to Kristin for the presentation. Fantastic job. Thank you everyone for attending and your excellent questions. Some of them are significant and very, very deep. I can envisage maybe white papers and other webinars coming in the future on some of these subjects, just to really enable you folks in what you do every day, this professional risk management, risk analysis management. It's a very, very complex world in which you all live, in which we all live, pertaining to risk. So again, thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Kristin. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Matt. And that really ends our webinar for today. And look for the email with all the follow-up resources that I'll be sending out.